What is going on, everyone? My name is Another Radar, and welcome back to the Pokemon Draft League Viabilities. Now, in the last episode, we covered Crobat, so if you missed that, make sure you head back and check that out. In this video, we're going to be covering another Poison type in Gengar that was requested by one of you guys, so thank you guys so much for the feedback. I already have the next 3 weeks of videos planned out with the Pokemon I'm going to be doing, so that's awesome. Makes me so happy that you guys are loving this series. And it really gives me, a lot of push to do this series for you guys every week, and if it keeps growing and keeps getting more views and whatnot, I'm going to start making it twice a week, hopefully. So that would be awesome, and then I love this series. It's one of my favorite series to do. Anyway, none of that has any relevance to the Pokemon that we are talking about today, and that is Gengar. Now, Gengar is a very unique Pokemon. The reason being because it's OU. For a good reason, it's fast with base 110 speed and 130 special attack. What really holds it back in the league format is the fact that knockoff is so prevalent and the fact that it's so predictable as to what it can do. What I mean by that is, while yes, it gets a very vast move pool of Focus Blast, Sludge Wave, Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, Dazzling Gleam, all this other awesome special coverage, you have to remember, this thing is very frail. Even max HP, max defense doesn't take hits very well. Like, for example, if you're going up against a Rotom Heat, and since Rotom Heat can be pretty specially bulky, a max HP Gengar takes 50% from a max special attack Timid Thunderbolt. So it's like, whenever you look at stats like that, you're like, wow, this thing really can't take a hit. However, there is one thing that it does very well that is not in the standard play of just Life Orb, Choice Specs attacker. And that it does sub-split very well. I love the sub-split Gengar with Substitute Will-O-Wisp, Pain Split, and Shadow Ball for stab. Reason being is because if you run with max HP, max defense with sub, and then you Will-O-Wisp something, you can kind of be a little bit more bulky on both sides since your opponent's going to be burnt. Along with slowly taking down their HP while you're gaining some back. And it's very cool to see the way it can be bulky, but it's very difficult to do and very difficult to pull off because so many teams are just able to have knockoff, Dark Pulse. Pursuit is a very big move that's becoming very popular now because of Victini. It's becoming the easiest way to take care of Victini. And in turn, it kind of sort of really helps out with Gengar, which sucks. The one really good thing about Gengar is the fact that it is so offensive. A lot of teams, they're either very bulky and very fat or very offensive. There's not a lot of teams that you can just look at and be like, wow, that's a very balanced team. It's just not how drafting works a lot of times because of sniping and things like that. So if you are looking for a very strong Life Orbed attacker or Choice Scarfer, Gengar is probably one of the best ones in my opinion. Here's why. A Life Orb, Timid, Thunderbolt from Gengar to a specially defensive Milotic does 42% minimum. That's insane damage going to a Milotic. So, realistically, because this thing has such vast coverage and things like that, it can be a very good hole puncher for your team. It can also really wear down your opponent's team and make him think on his feet a lot faster than what he had to. Gengar also, along with the vast move pool that it has, it does have some pretty cool utility options. One of them, actually, we'll go over a couple of them. The main one that I love about Gengar is Taunt, because Taunt is very easy to break up stall. A lot of teams are seeing that Bulk is easier to use in League format, and that it's kind of sort of making it more popular. And Taunt just shuts it all down completely, along with being immune to things like Seismic Toss from Chanseys and things like that. It's easy to just kind of sort of scare it off. Another really cool thing it gets is Destiny Bond. So this thing can also be a very awesome late game safety check. The only problem with that is rocks, because if you have a Focus Sash and you want to Destiny Bond something, then you have to deal with rocks, and then it's just a pain in the butt. But it's very easy to have a Gengar that just needs 3 moves, and if you have a Choice Scarf on it, you can just be like, hey, 4th move, Destiny Bond, good to go, easy kill on something if I'm really low. Another one that this thing is really cool for is Disable, because if you're using the sub-split set with Will-O-Wisp, you might want Disable just because it's really good for choiced mons. forces them to struggle, hard switch out, and lose a lot of momentum, which I really like about certain Pokemon like Gengar. Because while it can gain you a lot of momentum, it can also force a lot of people to lose momentum. I will say, though, with Gengar, I'm going to be kind of blunt and say that I would never draft Gengar. Unless I had the hankering to use it. A lot of times when I enter into a league, I look down at a list of Pokemon that I've wanted to use, and I'm like, this one's really freaking cool. In the PPL, I wanted to use a Azumarill. That was the one Pokemon I wanted to use more than anything. So I was like, hey, here's a Azumarill. So unless you're really craving to use Gengar, there are other really good special attackers that are fast, that have more utility, and can hit just as hard, like the Lottie twins, which sometimes go really fast. Things like Sylveon can hit very hard. However, that's not very as vast in the move pool, which kind of sort of sucks. But then you have Alakazam, which gets Magic Guard. You have things like Sigilyph, which gets Magic Guard. There are a lot of really good special attackers to where I think that Gengar just doesn't add up to something that you kind of sort of look at and be like, yes, perfect. And it's never really something that you should be scared of is going to get sniped, because a lot of other people are looking at other special attackers. It's just sadly how it is. However, if you do want to use Gengar, there are a couple things that you need to have on your team. Colbur berries. Because a lot of times whenever I see Gengars or whenever I see Victinis or anything that's kind of sort of frail and weak to pursuit, I'll pursuit trap the fuck out of it. It's just so easy to be like, hey, you're now in here, you have to switch out or you're going to die, so I'm going to pursuit you, so you have to be able to switch out without risking it. You see that your opponent doesn't have a pursuit user, but they have good dark users or things like that. You really, really need a solid fairy to check this, to go along with this thing. Just so you can take the ghost hits, the dark hits, everything like that. It just makes it so much easier to mesh well with your team. And when I say a good fairy, I don't mean, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I don't mean Mega Audino. I mean like Sylveon, Clefable, Togekiss. Togekiss over the rest of them, because that means that you can defog away pretty easily. And then if you do want to have the Focus Sash Destiny Bond set, you can, and it's very easy to use. Along with the fact that Gengar is 4 times resistant to poison, and Togekiss is weak to poison. They mesh perfectly with each other. So I think that Togekiss and Gengar fit perfectly together. Another thing that you want to have is you want to have a very good Psychic type to switch in on Psychic type moves. By that, I think that this thing kind of sort of needs wall cores around it. Because if you have something like Cresselia or Reuniclus and Togekiss, then you're covering its main weaknesses and you're good, and you can always switch in and out in between them because 2 of them are weak to dark, Togekiss is resistant to dark, and all this other stuff. You also want a very good knockoff switch in, which is why I think that something that goes very well with Gengar is Terrakion, because where they're basically complete polar opposites. One hits so damn hard on the physical spectrum and gets a +1 boost from getting hit by knockoff, and Gengar hits so damn hard on the special spectrum that if you have them together, they're really hard to find switch-ins for. It's just how it is, and I love it. Overall, though, I'm going to have to say that Gengar is less than ideal for something that you would want on a draft. However, it's very easy to build around because the things that you would want to build around, they're plentiful in drafts. Like a decent fairy like Florges. You have Aromatisse, you have Togekiss, you have Sylveon, you have Mega Audino is less than ideal, but you can use it and it still works a little bit. Not as good, but it is what it is. You have things like even lower tier fairies like Togetic. They work out perfectly. However, then it's not as good of a knockoff switch in. So there's enough fairy typings and enough good physical wall breakers that are like kind of sort of prevent knockoff spam, and good bulky psychic types to make this thing good. The problem is people don't draft around it and they say, Gengar looks pretty cool, let's just throw it in, and it doesn't work. That's the main problem with Gengar. And because of all that, I'm actually going to give this thing a C+. And I know that sounds really weird, but you have to think of it as, would you choose, in any league format really, because a lot of league formats are turning into a point based, a tier based, or anything like that. You have to look. Would you rather have Miss Magius? Low tier, low cost, does the exact same thing, bulkier, has a pretty decent move pool, or would you rather have Gengar, which is normally top tier, very expensive, more frail, and things like that? I would rather have a Miss Magius, like 100% of the time. I would take Miss Magius over it any day of the week. Plus it has Levitate, it's the exact same ability. They can work basically interchangeable, except Miss Magius is bulkier. It's how I feel about it. I don't think Gengar is the best Pokemon to choose. However, if you can build around it properly, it is a fantastic mon. It's just kind of sort of 1 to 2 dimensional. I know that this video is a little bit longer, but Pokemon like this, you kind of have to go more in depth about it because they are kind of sort of more one-dimensional. You have to find more things to do with them, and you have to figure out what it can actually be good at and what it needs support with. So I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and a comment with your opinions down below. If your opinion is completely different than mine, let me know why. I love reading the comments. The support on this video is absolutely fantastic. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.